Greetings, Ivy Artists. This is Miss A. I'm here introducing a series of videos. So for this series of videos, I'm interviewing a variety of people. Most of these people were my ex-students. Some of them are practicing artists that I've met along the way. And really, these videos are here to inspire you. They are here to show you where you can take your art education. Not all of you will become artists, but I feel that art is really, really important no matter what you end up doing later on in life. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you really, really enjoy these. Thank you for subscribing, liking, sharing, commenting. That inspires us to do more videos that are hopefully of interest to you. This is Miss A. All the best.
I am an operations analyst for insurance brokerage / tech company. So everything after the sales, all the way till the activation of your policy, that's what I do. I'm gonna be moving to account managerial stuff. So that's gonna be more client focused. So more in terms of like the wellness programs, renewals, all of that kind of stuff. Yes. What do you do?
I'm a physiotherapist at the moment within the NHS. And I rotate every couple of months to go to a different department for work experience. And at the moment, I'm based on the wards, so I would say I probably have more acutely ill patients than usual. I think when I did IBR, it just helped me learn to look past the initial image or person that you meet somebody. It helped me learn that there's more to people and different ways that you might try and engage with people. And it could be with patients or it could be with colleagues. It's just trying to think outside of the box, how you can try and get that person to see the same idea or the same image that you have. And it's just helped me learn to communicate differently, I would say.
My experience is very similar to that, more in the sense that I feel like I used to ramble a lot, like in the 10th and 11th grade, and then as I went into IB and we had those sessions where we had to talk about our pieces or even the interview towards the end, we had to make everything very, I guess, concise and clear. And that really helped with my communication skills as well, because at the end of the day, a lot of what I do through the day is explaining processes to the clients, going to meetings, like making people feel comfortable and like helping them understand things that are quite difficult and dynamic, And so that clear communication that was taught to me in high school translated all the way through university and is still helping me to this day.
Know how to sell your idea, isn't it? You're trying to persuade.
Yeah, or not sell, just like properly explain. Like everything can be translated quite not easily, but in the most understandable way. Does that make sense?
And knowing that those different perspectives are out there as well.
Right, because when you start with your piece, right, people have different interpretations of it. But then at the end of the day, you are asked to explain where this comes from, how you developed this process, what exactly happened, right? And the same thing when it comes to like any aspect of your life, especially when it comes to your professional life. You have to take a person through every step of the way so that they feel comfortable all throughout the process. And I feel like it does work in a sense,
Yeah, definitely. I think, like I said beforehand, it helped me learn to communicate differently. And, in this, I think it helps you learn to think outside of the box and to understand that you do have those different perspectives and there are different ways of looking and thinking the same idea or the same thing. And I guess I'd say it made me more flexible in my way of thinking. I think, with the way that the world is and, things constantly moving, it's really important that we, as a generation and as a population, we be able to adapt and change in the way that we think or in the way that we interpret or see things. And I think art gives that freedom to really explore, your creativity, push boundaries out there, but also constantly seeing what else is out there and what are other people thinking and doing with what you're thinking, if it's the same idea. And I think that's really important to have.
Yeah. Especially with that, you were talking about communicating through art. So after IB, when I went off to college, I joined kind of like an art education activism group. It was called the Cultural Affairs Committee. So basically, a lot of that was to do with communicating and educating a lot of different issues around LA through art. So we had like understanding gentrification through art, or understanding minority communities and like creating safe spaces for that, holding a lot of workshops. So even when it came to spoken word, etc., etc., like basically we just used a bunch of different mediums to find like safe spaces during a lot of the political movements that were going on, and a lot of the social unrest as well. So it was really cool because, I mean, didn't matter what level of art you were coming from, or where you were on like the social hierarchy, what your beliefs were, etc., etc. It was just a community space where you could learn, grow, teach each other. It was really lovely. So I think having art as a, I guess, like foundation or basis of understanding a lot of different things and different people is really important, because I mean, you take what you want from it in a way, and you understand whatever is laid on the table for you. And yeah, it gives you an opportunity to grow and an opportunity to find your community in a way. So
yeah, no, and it's just a nice way of rounding it together, isn't it? Because I think when you finish high school and you're going to uni and you're focused on like starting a job or getting a career or whatever it is that your aim is when you leave school, you can get caught up in that world of just going step by step. And I think that foundation that I got personally from art just helps make me a well-rounded person that constantly comes back, because like you said, with art, that is my way of being able to connect with globally with what's going on around the world, whether it be, people upset about, sexism in work, or, people are upset about racism or anything going on out there in the world. In my workplace, it's something that, is not the main focus, and you don't see it, around, but it happens and it's there. But by having that constant ability to go back to art or go to see different activist groups or different galleries out and about, it's a way to remember and think, what can I make, or what can I do to help make a difference, essentially. And it's quite interesting that you said that about LA, because I was in Bristol a couple of weeks ago, and that kind of sounds like what Bristol very much is like as a city. You see, art all over the city. It's all about what's going on around the world, or just what somebody's feeling. And at the moment, there's just a lot based on, the political situation with Brexit. There's a lot about gender equality. There's a lot of fear about what's going to happen, in terms of to the NHS, and it's all over. And you just see how people feel, and kind of makes you think, oh, these are the different perspectives that people have. Touched upon that a little bit, didn't we?
Yeah.
I think because our art course was part of the IB as well, transitioning from like high school to uni, academically at least, I felt well prepared. I knew how to think outside of the box, and I knew how to kind of try and voice my opinion and to kind of really try to dig further and say, why is that? Or, how, and really question things so that I could get a better understanding, essentially. And I think that just helped me throughout uni as well, like just knowing that I'm capable of that, and I'm almost capable of always being able to question further, which the art course is, the IB art course is constantly trying to encourage us to do, like look at things a lot further. What else can you bring, and how can that have an impact on your own pieces and your own work? Is a really good tool that I was able to carry on and use.
Yeah.
I feel.
That's true. I mean, you use the words like your own work, right? And I feel like a lot of we had a huge focus on like never plagiarizing work, always being authentic, whatever you did. My cat sneezed. Just always being authentic, wherever you go, whatever class you take, regardless of what subject, whatever. And I feel like because with IB Arts, if you didn't believe in what you were doing, or if you didn't have a genuine connection to it, other people in the room could also tell, and so like in a way it kind of pushed you to dig deeper within yourself and find something that you genuinely connected with, right? And I feel like it then makes you, like you realize that introspective thinking is something that you are very, very capable of, and you're able to apply it to literally anything else. I remember in my in my global studies classes, I would never do well in the actual sit down exams, but then if you had to ask me to go back, think about it, write an essay, like I would excel in that stuff because I now know how to sit down, think about a situation, think about a subject,
Yeah.
And like form an authentic opinion about what's going on. So I feel like art specifically, especially IB Arts, really helped with that. But yeah, that tied in with being able to translate what I'm trying to say as clearly as possible. Even though it wasn't necessarily actually like the art of making a piece, in a way it kind of was, so yeah.
No, that's fair.
I guess it comes back down to it. We were talking about authenticity. We were talking about your ability to translate. This all comes in time, and so maybe in the beginning to just not take it too hard if you don't get it the first time around, but like also don't force yourself into tunnels or alleyways just because you think a topic is cool. Pick something that you are genuinely interested in, like whether that be a social movement, or like I picked my family, and a lot of my pieces were about kind of like in a way even the trauma that I felt like growing up or whatever my family situation was, and it helps you gain a lot of closure in a way. And like I find, yeah, so like for me it was like a very cathartic release, even though mostly what I painted and drew were inanimate objects. Everything that I did was tied down to something that I genuinely cared about, or something that truly meant something to me, and I feel like just be authentic, be real in what you're saying, because I mean people who are grading you know exactly.
How much thought has gone into it. I think
there's no way of faking it, so you might as well just be yourself.
Definitely. And I think, like, on my side at least, I quite like the idea and the thinking behind. I like knowing what's going on behind somebody's head, or trying to dig in. Probably how I ended up being a physio, in all fairness. I like knowing what's going on with somebody, and I'm probably more interested in the process than actually potentially maybe creating my own individual idea. Yeah. And I guess for me, I'd just say that's okay. That's art too. Like, whichever one it is, I did option B, and everybody else in my class did option A. and there was just slight differences between the two different options, but my focus more was on what the artist's ideas were and how might I help them influence my work rather than creating as many original pieces as I could. But I still thoroughly enjoyed the course, and I learned so much about how I interpret things, how I might communicate, and as we were saying in this session today, how it's just helped impact us a bit differently now in our professional lives. And so my advice would be, don't be afraid, push your boundaries, push yourself out there, and, art is different to and unique to every person, and you will come out with very different results from another person, and you just gotta love them and embrace them.
It's true. We all used, I mean, one person would pick a medium and then all of us would like all of a sudden get onto the bandwagon, you know what I mean? Like we all wanted to try something and
But
every
then
single
all come out really different.
different. Yeah, like every single, I mean, we all did a little bit of animation, we all did a little bit of videography, we did wire work, we did all of this kind of stuff, and everybody's pieces, like it didn't even feel like you were in the same classroom, so it's just it's wild, it's amazing. Yeah
To be
authenticity, bro. But yeah